Right. Now 8% of what? 8% of, let us say, in a building, in a major building, the reinforcement component is 13 to 14%. If you design very carefully, it can be down to 12%. Now, if it is 13 to 14%, it works down to 1.12% of the total cost. So today, an average building cost is 2,000 rupees. So what does it entail? 1.12%. It is 23 rupees per square foot. It is very, very negligible. So why do we hesitate to galvanize reinforcing steel? In Western countries, particularly United States, it doesn't have to be a marine structure. It doesn't have to be near the sea. Invariably important, all important buildings, all important structures, the reinforcement is galvanized. So why aren't we doing it? I think it's a lack of, the knowledge, lack of connectivity with the industry. Well, they're so busy with other things. We heard about automobile industry. We heard about the growth of infrastructures. So building is, put aside. But do not forget, it is the built environment, is the buildings where the people are living, people are working, and that is what decides their fate, their decision-making process. If you neglect the buildings, then you are neglecting everything else. So we are saying that it is only 1.12%. Why can't I do galvanizing? So it's the same. Now, this is, besides this, let me explain to you what I have gone through as a leading consultant in the recent years. Why suddenly I have got this interest in galvanization. When Mr. Sharma came to me, I said, all right, let me speak for a few minutes. Now, what has happened that I'll give you three study cases. We have had 3 projects very recently. One I will explain to you very shortly, very specifically, where the client has initiated us, has encouraged us to have his project entirely by galvanization. Entirely. The structure is galvanized, the sheeting is galvanized, the cladding is galvanized, even the boundary wall is galvanized. Even the racks are, all the services, the supporting structure are galvanized. Now, let me give the background of this project. This is the Partho project in Rajasthan, in Jaipur. Now, you may ask questions, why in Rajasthan, why everything is galvanized? Now, this gentleman, who is the president of the company, is from Brazil. It's a Brazilian company. And they are going to manufacture ATM machines in India. And by the way, more than 50% ATM machines come from Brazil, which are being used in India today. So he's making a very big factory today, about 5 lakh square feet of area. Now, in this, start from the boundary wall, that's galvanized. Even if you go to the next, there, so look at the factory. This is the, this is the part of the factory. Everything is galvanized and coated. Now, his justification, just listen to it very carefully. He says, look, we argued with him that, look, Brazil is a humid weather. You have very humid weather. You probably need galvanize to prevent the structure from corrosion. He says, no, that may be one of the reasons, but that's not the reason I have. The reason he has given, Mr. Thomas, that, look, I don't want any welding. Welded structure, when it's repainted, it looks awful, which is very, very justified. Now, in an industry, you have services all the time, additions, subtractions, deletions. That means you'll be welding throughout the years, maybe in the next 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. He says, I don't want any discoloring. I want the same color right from day one. And that's what he has. He says, I must have it. And that is the reason, not only for enhancing the life of the structure, even the inside of the structure, we'll see very soon. That photograph, from Brazil, not from, we have just started the construction, And there also, everything is galvanized. Now, look at this. Everything is there. The structure, the ducting, the total surfaces, everything is. There is nothing painted surface. He doesn't want any painted surface. So this is one story where the client has encouraged us to adopt galvanization in the building. Now the second case is, with that encouragement, we are now going ahead with the design of another important high-end project with a lot of galvanization. Now, you may find interesting, what is this industry? This is a commissary for Domino's, which is about, in the first phase, about 2.5, 3 lakhs square feet of area. Now, why galvanization again? Now, this is very strange, because you might be stop eating pizzas if you hear the whole story. Pizzas are never made fresh. They are made and they are stored for 6 months. So the pizza basis, even the topping is made at least 6 to 8 months before. So they are stored in refrigerated compartments, buildings, starting from minus 23 degree to different minus 10, minus 10, depending on what basis and what they are. So these are refrigerated areas where you will not be able to, and fully health safe areas. So unlikely touched by hand, human beings. So what happens in these areas? So if, and very high humidity area, 95% humidity, and very low temperature. So in those areas, it's very difficult to maintain. So therefore, we are going ahead with the knowledge, with the blessing, with the encouragement of the client, that let's go ahead with this thing, galvanization, all elements of structure. Now, I'll just finish it. The third case is, so one case is with the encouragement, we are adopting galvanization in the building. Second is, with that first project encouragement, the second phase, on our own we are doing galvanization. Third case is that, yes, we had done galvanization, but we are having problem. Now, I think there are a lot of experts, probably I'll need help. In this particular case this is only a very small part of the building. This is a very large building, by the way. This is 6 lakh square feet of area. This is called aluminum foundry for Shriram Piston. In foundries, what happens, there are furnaces are there. And there is also the aluminum alloys are melted. So there is a lot of chloride fumes and also ammonia fumes. Now, obviously, in these plants, we designed the fume extraction system. All the machines are hooked to free system. So there are very unlikely that fumes will be going here and there, this very alkaline fumes, But it happens. And as a result, the building is 14 meter high, the ceiling. Even then, the galvanizing has corroded. The entire sheeting has corroded within 6 months. And this is a cycle which we are facing, and we are not finding a solution. There, whether we should go for a thicker galvanizing sheeting, and what is the solution? Maybe somebody may be able to help me, there. So at the end, how do you go? What is the way forward? First is, let us have more awareness with the designers and urban planners, so that the merits of galvanizing in improving serviceability of building structures is clearly understood. That means we are increasing the lifespan, we are increasing the serviceability of the building. So that awareness should be with the designers or the urban planners. And secondly, that there should be more interaction with the designers and the architects with the industry, because that is not there at the moment. They are too busy elsewhere, there. And the third is, and I'm sorry to say that this is while finalizing the contract for Parto Jaipur, I'm still looking for large-scale facility for galvanizing, their structural members of 10 meters or 15 meters or 20 meters near in some part of northern India. I've been told that it is in Pune. Look at the transportation cost. I have to get the steel from Bhilai or SAIL, again transported right to Pune and bring back to Jaipur. It's 3,000 kilometers, almost. And who is going to pay for the transport? The client, ultimately. Can't we have some other system? Can't we have more facilities as you have in the West? Why not? That is what is lacking there. Let's hope that over the years we get more and more facilities. We're more and more able to popularize galvanization in buildings and go ahead. Thank you very much.
Nandi, I think you have given a very good perspective of use of galvanized product in building elements, and also you have indicated the issues relating to rebar. I think it is a fact that there are techno-commercial reasons, and probably there are misconceptions also on the part of the users. And one thing I can see that there is not, in our country, if you see, there may be some users, but if you want to go for use of galvanized rebars, you will not readily find it. So probably it requires some issues relating to market development. We have to resolve them. And cost angle, you have also rightly pointed out, it may not be much, but there is a real apprehension about the cost, that in general people feel that the probably cost of rebars, if it is galvanized, will be much more. And that is one of the, the hindrance on the utilization of these galvanized rebars. Now, after this consultant's viewpoint, let me invite Mr. Madhusudan. I think he is from L&T. He will give us a perspective about, the user's point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Madhusudan, representing Glaston Tubro, probably one of the largest construction company, and we are synonymous with concrete. Pouring concrete, wherever you see, L&T is there. So concrete, and why do we talk about this topic? Potential of galvanized rebars, engineering and construction perspective. Now, if you ask me, are we using galvanized steel in construction? I would say yes, very much. But if you ask me, are you using galvanized rebars, then probably I'll have to think, not to say yes, but I'm sure it's a firm no from what I have been in this industry for 18 years. I somehow don't understand why this has slipped out of the requirement or the design perspective. So we'll just go through it, which is going to be a bit more academic run rather than actually giving a user perspective. Contents are very wide, but just to say you that we would like to just take you through the protection mechanisms, what we have for concrete as sense, and then to get into what is hot dip galvanizing, that's a topic for the day, and to what its field, the construction perspective of it, and then we'll get into what is the galvanized rebars experience in India till now. Protection of steel, when you say, yes, you have both ways. You can protect the concrete as well as you can protect the reinforcement bars. We leave the concrete aside because there's a lot of other coating mechanisms that can be used. But to get into what can be done with the reinforcement bars, one is corrosion-resistant reinforcement bars. They're standard products which are now manufactured in India. Then you have the fusion-bonded epoxy-coated rebars. That's the most preferred in India. if next to the corrosion-resistant reinforcement bars, and then the hot dip galvanizing. We'll touch upon all these three. Major corrosion-resistant rebars that we use are a very renowned product range from some of the leading manufacturers of this country. The HCR bars of SAIL, Tuscon of Tata, the Temco rebars of RINL, and high-strength corrosion-resistant. Now, what is this? Of course, has given to some extent has addressed the problem of galvanization, but what is its drawbacks? The rebars manufactured this way have a dual microstructure. It has a tempered martensitic structure on the outer and a ductile structure in the core. So it has its advantages. And the corrosion resistance has actually come out through some elements which is added in nickel chromium, which over a period of time with exposure to oxygen and moisture develop the protective layer. Now this takes time. Now if the oxygen is not very readily available in concrete, that's not the idea to make it very porous. We don't make it porous. So oxygen availability becomes a big question. So this layer sometimes doesn't get formed at all. And so invariably, the purpose why we use this corrosion-resistant bars doesn't serve its purpose. And in marine environment, of course, chlorides, no material works in that way. With chlorides, it's very extreme corrosive environment. And these reinforcement bars have not shown a great life either. And the pitting, because of the dual material combination that's going on. Now, having said that, we'll get into hot dip galvanization. Yes, it's been in use for many years. It's from US early 20th century, and US later on shifted to epoxy. We'll cover that in the later stages. But hot dip galvanization has been in use for many years. It has better bonding with, say, steel. A very simple reason that zinc reacts with steel and actually forms a stratified alloy layer, which gives you a multi-level protection before the base metal is exposed to corrosion. And the galvanized bars are ductile. It's very soft. You can bend and form in whatever way as you form a black steel. And it weighs about 5 to 7% more than the normal rebars. Of course, this advantage is not given through the design because you still follow the design for galvanized bars with a normal rebar. It's naturally cathodic in the sense it becomes very sacrificial first. Even if there is an uncoated surface on the rebar, the coated areas of zinc sacrifices itself before the base element starts corroding. So that plays a very naturally cathodic character. And it has well-established codes for using galvanized rebars across all over the world, including India. High chloride content, yes, it can 2 to 3 times the normal rebar, but is that sufficient? That's a big question mark, because that theory doesn't prove that it's really good for that, where epoxy slightly plays a better advantage in that. And it is a greater pH passivation range than the steel. Getting into the application part of it, from our perspective, we are into all these business lines, so naturally these give advantage in this. Transportation infrastructure, that's the main use where we see in bridge decks and surface roads, crash barriers. Precast cladding elements for surface exposed beams and columns, for any architectural elements, and also in chemical metallurgical plants. This is a big area that we have missed out all this time. We have never even thought of using it, but we always question because we are one of the largest builders of steel plants, aluminum, zinc, and copper plants in this country, but it never struck us why we never suggested this, because this seems to be a natural agent for corrosion resistant in all these industries where it's very critical. A very small comparison. Why I'm comparing galvanized rebars with epoxy coated? Very simple reason, because epoxy is the most preferred. So I'm just comparing vis-a-vis that, how HDG, hot dip galvanized steel places against it. Most of the parameters are like to like. I just want to take you to that bond to concrete. This is something very excellent, where epoxy actually just forms like a film on top of it. This actually merges with it. It makes a metallurgical bond. That's a very important advantage in this. Second, there's no underfilm corrosion which can form in terms of epoxy. It's not here. Abrasion resistance, zinc by forming an alloy gives a very good abrasion resistance, and it can be used in all temperature conditions. Epoxy has a limitation on that aspect. having done this, I just want to take to the cost comparison, which Mr. Nandi had just referred to. We have a slightly difference of opinion. Not from ultimately, bottom line is the same. Both of us feel it's negligible. I'll just tell you why. Hot dip galvanized from this reference table is about 50% higher than the normal black rebar. Now let's put into a perspective where a large plant which involves civil, mechanical, electrical works, everything. I'm just taking you step by step how negligible it is. A rebar cost in a concrete is about 30 to 50% of the cost. Assume we take an average of 40%. A 40% average cost of reinforcement bars in concrete, when you take civil as a portion of the entire project value, which is about 30, 35% or 40%, this ratio falls to around 20%. And from that, if you take it on a complete metallurgical plant, if you see the corrosion resistant coating on top of this, it comes to around roughly, reinforcement cost alone comes to only 1-2%, and we're talking of 50%. That's 1% max. And if you are very selective of taking only galvanized rebars in the underground structures or exposed structures, you can knock this down 1% to point, I don't know, to what level you can take it, 0.00 or 0.02. I think it's a good cost to invest, but who takes the call? We'll come to that later. Construction perspective of having a rebar. Now, a galvanized rebar can be handled the same way as a black metal rebar is. Only point, you just need to take care of visual inspection. This is a big problem because this industry is not very well developed in the country. So when we depend on re-rollers or the secondary imports or the secondary manufacturers, we invariably have a doubt whether the base metal that has been used is of good quality. You can always, a zinc coating can always camouflage the surface defects or inherent defects of the base. That's a bit of concern from the construction point of view. That's the only point of concern in the areas of material receipt loading or handling at point of view. The other concern comes to us in the welding. Zinc galvanized rebars are difficult to weld. In the sense, you need to completely ground it, remove out the zinc layer, and then you need to do the welding. And again, it can end up with noxious fumes, so you need to provide proper ventilation. It becomes a little very tedious process to do inside. That's from the construction point of view, but taking references of what happened world over. As I said, US started off with this 1930s with this galvanized rebars, but in 70s they shifted over to epoxy, and they have found a lot of success with epoxy. Why? Probably it's easier to do it, quicker, it can be done at site. It's the testing process is much more quicker with an epoxy. But now they've changed again. Off late, all the constructions that's happening out of US is again back to galvanized rebars. Japanese have tested this. This test important from Japanese point of view is hot galvanized rebars are good for low chloride content. That's the reason why I said this rebar is still questionable whether you can use it for full-fledged marine conditions. I just read out UK, Australia. Australia still uses predominantly a large extent of galvanized rebars. When we talk of Baha'i temple, they always show the Sydney house photograph, so it's very synonymous. Both are of same kind of construction, and they've used galvanized rebars. In India, we have a tendency not to document very well, so the data of whatever we have done with galvanized is not recorded. But what we can say is 1980s of Baha'i temple is the only significant structure till date that we can tell that's galvanized. That itself raises a big doubt why this galvanized rebar has not been adopted, including, I blame our company as well. Why didn't we promote that as well? Just to give you a brief, Baha'i temple photographs extensively shown there. I just want to touch upon only one point. There's about 300 tons of reinforcement bar used in Baha'i. What do you think that would have been a cost impact in that project, in that landmark project? Negligible. That's the essence of point that I want to convey, that it costs nothing. It's apparently, yes, the initial cost seems high, but you take the entire project life cycle costing when you try to do it, it's hardly negligible. You don't need much of maintenance what you do with otherwise with a black rebar. These are some of the other examples that we were part of or we are aware of. The total thing, if you see, it's hardly 2,000 metric tons or 3,000 tons only of galvanized rebar used in this entire country. this is all the consumption. So it has a huge scope. We see there's a huge potential for this, but how to take it forward? That's a big question. Now that everybody gets into a blame game, that's your baby. Now I think it's a collective responsibility, but one thing significantly plays is the cost effectiveness. Now who's going to build that? Will it be the end user, or will it be the design consultants who has to recommend that? Cost effectiveness is a big question, because we are put in we come very low in the decision making line as a constructor. So we are only put directly in the competition, and we ask, are you L1? We need to play as per the competitive rules. So we don't know if we can play a significant role. So hence my point of that, this field investigations and research, basically the researchers have to promote this. So I pass the buck to them. And its convenience of manufacturing, ease of handling makes it convenient. Yes, we would be readily accepting this if this is being insisted on in all the constructions. And as I said, buy-in of end users and plant design consultants is very important, because they are the ultimate investors. That difference of money, they should see value in that. Thank you for the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Madhusudan. I think you have given us a very good overview of the potentials of galvanized rebars. You have also raised issues relating to problems like and various concerns like problems related to pollution, welding, etc. I think there are a lot of issues which can be resolved by a suitable or pragmatic market development. And probably you have to include the designers or institution like, in the Ministry of Steel, we have an organization called Steel INSDAG, Steel Institute for Steel Development and Growth. Probably, in association with all consultants, users, and such organizations, probably we can tackle these issues. With these words, may I now request Mr. Ranjan to please give his presentation. May I request you to kindly be brief, because time is limited.
A very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of Kirby, I would like to welcome you all. Kirby, basically I would not be talking much on Kirby. I'll be talking about the PEB industry. And as a leader of the PEB industry, we'll be also talking about the advantages of galvanization in the PEB industries for the structures, for the sheeting, and the various components we are using. I am privileged to share the dais with the big wigs of the industry. Mr. Nindi is with us. He has already talked about the various aspects of pre-engineered buildings. So I'll be taking you through the structures part. Just 1 second, please. Can you help me, please? I've been told to discuss about the emerging technologies, trends in PEB industry, a global perspective. Now I'll be talking more of how the PEB industry has evolved over the years. Now this concept of metal building was originated in United States somewhere in 1900, early 1900, and as Mr. Nandi has rightly said, after the Second World War, a lot of demand for structures were there. And then this concept basically came. Till the time of 1960s, it was basically 1960s until the end of 1990s, it was primarily the developed country which were using the pre-engineered building. The concept in India actually came somewhere in 1998 when Kirby brought this concept in India. We started our first plant with a capacity of 20,000 tons in Hyderabad, and gradually it has gone up to 2 lakh tons. Parallelly, we have set up another plant in Haridwar, where we are producing around 50,000 tons of steel buildings. Now, earlier till 1990s, it was primarily the industrial buildings, low-rise buildings, which were used for pre-engineered building. But in India, now it is widely accepted not only in industrial buildings, in a lot of other commercial buildings, high-rise buildings, and other things. Now, we have seen the PEB industry grow like anything. Now, PEB industry in India is growing at the rate of approximately 13 to 15% per annum, and it has gone up to almost 5,000 rupees per annum kind of thing, 5 lakh, and that capacity of is gone up to almost 5 lakh tons all over India. We will not be exaggerating if we say that PEB industry in India has gone up and it has outpaced the growth of existing by in last 100 years.